It's still too nice out to be inside. So you're joining me on my patio again this week for the second installment of my outdoor air dry clay summer. This week we're making some cute little mushroom fridge magnets, and I'll show you two methods to make them with or without some vintage gilded frames.
Let's do it.
We'll be using a creative paper clay again for this project. If you want to craft along with me, I'd highly recommend picking up this clay or DOS brand. Not all air dry clays are the same, but either of these two brands will work great for this project. In addition, I'm using these silicone frame molds. I got this set as a gift from a family member a while back. I wasn't able to find the exact same set, but I've linked some similar molds in my Amazon storefront. But of course, like always, we like to focus on making things here, not buying things. So if you don't want or can't get these molds, I'll show you how to adapt the project to make yourself some mushroom magnets without them. Besides the clay and the optional molds, you'll need a vinyl or plastic surface to work on, some way of making your clay flat. A wooden rolling pin is best, but you could also use a bottle sprinkled with a bit of cornstarch, a scraper or a spent gift card, a knife and sculpting tools of your choice, some rare earth magnets. Don't bother with the button ferromagnets you can get at the dollar store. They're not going to be strong enough, so I would recommend splurging on some good quality magnets here. A small dish of water, some good quality white glue, and some painting supplies. I'm working on one of the plastic mats you see me use all the time. I got this one at Dollar Tree, but I've put a link to something similar in the description. I do recommend a firm plastic work surface for this project because it won't wrinkle up on you and the plastic doesn't absorb moisture out of the clay while you're trying to work with it. So this is a 2-session sculpting project. On day 1 here, we're going to make our frames and make our mushroom stems. To model the frames, make a loop of clay about the size of the mold's opening, lay the loop on top of the form, and press it into the mold with your thumb. I'm using a gift card to scrape the extra clay off the mold, but as I'm watching the footage of myself sort of struggling to do this, I'm wondering why I didn't just use a knife to carve off the extra clay. If the clay lifts out of the mold a bit as you scrape off the excess, that's fine, just press it back into the mold. Fill all your molds like this, then set them aside to dry in a cool place away from direct sunlight. Again, you can skip this part if you wanna. Now we're gonna make some mushroom stems. So you wanna think about scale while you're doing this. Consider the size of your frames when you're making your stems. I would recommend making a few extras in a variety of sizes. Making the stems is really simple. I'm rolling out a long teardrop shape. Then I'll tap the base of that teardrop against the table to flatten it. Now I want my mushrooms to be growing upwards when they're on my fridge, so I'm bending the stem into a 90-degree angle like so. Here are all the stems I made. I'm going to set these aside with my frames to dry overnight. Here's everything dry the next day. Now we get to pop the frames out of the mold, and dang, this has got to be the most satisfying process ever. I love the level of detail that this clay is able to pick up, and the frames are very lightweight. I have to clean up a few of my frame castings with a craft knife. Since this clay is paper-based, it's really similar to cutting through paper. You don't have to worry about the clay cracking or crumbling. Now I'm rolling out a small blob of clay that's bigger than my frame. I want it to be about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm gently pressing my dry frame into the clay just to make an imprint of the frame border. From there, I'm selecting a couple of magnets that will fit under the frame, and I'm sinking them into the clay. Pay attention to the polarity of the magnets here. Make sure you pull each of them off the stack and place them in the same way so your magnetic fields aren't fighting. I'm smearing a little blob of clay on top of the magnets to hide them. Now they are fully locked inside the clay, no glue needed. Once my magnets are hidden in my clay, I'm putting a bit of good quality white glue on the back of my frame, and I'm gently pressing that into the outline I made earlier. Now I can use my craft knife to cut around the frame so I have a perfectly fit magnetized background. Make sure your magnet can peel off the work surface now. If you can't get your fingers under the magnet to peel it off the plastic mat, try picking the whole mat up and gently holding the magnet and then actually peel the mat off of the magnet. That might help. If you've got any gaps between the frame and the background like I do here, you can use a slightly damp paintbrush to smoosh the backing onto the frame a bit. Now I'm picking out a stem I like and dry fitting it into the frame. I'm using another blob of clay to make a mushroom cap. This is really easy to do by rolling out a ball and flattening one side against the table. You can use your knife to carve some gills into the underside of the mushroom cap if you want, but there's no rules. You can make your mushroom caps look as real or as fantastical as you'd like. I'm making a little skirt for one of my mushrooms by rolling out a snake of clay, flattening it with my thumb, and then rippling it and wrapping it around my mushroom stem. I'm using a slightly damp paintbrush to blend the top of the skirt into the stem. Next, I'm placing a little bit of white glue on the end of the stem, and then shoving it into my mushroom cap. I'm putting a bit of glue on the base of the stem and gently but firmly planting it into my frame. You can use a slightly damp brush to tidy up any glue squeeze out, or you can just leave it. You're not going to see it after we paint it anyways. Okay, so I told you that if you don't have frame molds, I would show you how to adapt the project. We're doing that right now. I'm setting a magnet down on my placemat, rolling out a blob of clay, then flattening the blob onto the magnet in a little mound shape. From there, you make your mushroom caps and insert your stems in just the same manner as I showed you earlier. On this blob, I added a few little bits of clay for pebbles, and I carved some wood grain into this one. So here are all the magnets I made. You can see some of the frames have multiple stems, and I got creative and tried out a few different shapes for caps. We'll set these aside to dry for 1 or 2 days. Righto, now these guys are dry and are ready for paint. I'm using acrylic craft paint to paint my magnets. I bought these in a set of 12, and it's kind of nice because the set comes with all the basic colors you'd want, and they all coordinate with each other. I've linked that set in the description with the other supplies for this project, but feel free to go ham with whatever paints you have. If you saw my ghost project, you know that even watercolors will work on this clay. I wanted my frames to be gold, so I used this eyeshadow applicator to buff some gold paint over a black base coat. In my opinion, metallics look best over black. When you do this, just be sure to pick up a small amount of paint only and dab the applicator on a paper towel to get off the excess. If you want to paint some spots on your mushroom cap, a Q-tip works really well, or you can use the end of your paintbrush. Go ahead and make your mushrooms as realistic or as fantastical as you'd like. You can use my designs as inspiration, or go ahead and make something completely your own. When your magnets are all dry, you can seal them with a clear coat if you wanna. I don't usually bother sealing mine. And then you can display them on your fridge or notice board. Please give this video a like if you think I did a good job. I love how they turned out. I love the juxtaposition of a very rustic mushroom with a very ornate gilded frame. Subscribe for more kick-ass art on a cheap-ass budget. I hope you give this project a go. If you do, share your pics with me. It would make my freaking day. I'm on the socials as Jane Sawyer Makes everywhere. Don't be afraid to craft outside this summer. Go make some cute mushrooms, and I'll see you on the next one.